Hi guys, welcome back to Symbolic Logic Part 8. We are taking reference of Symbolic Logic 5th edition, which was written by Irving M. Copy from the University of Hawaii. In the previous session, we have seen about what is categorical syllogism and what are the terms in syllogism and what are the parts in a categorical syllogism, and finally about what is a standard form. Let's recap it again. So, syllogism. So, what is mean by syllogism? So, a syllogism must contain two premises and one conclusion. And the conclusion must be derived from the two premises. This is the simple meaning for syllogism. Now, let's see what is mean by categorical syllogism. So, as we seen before, syllogism means having two premises and one conclusion, and the conclusion must be derived from the two premises. The same thing goes for categorical syllogism. But in categorical syllogism, the all the both two premises and the conclusion must be a categorical proposition. That means A, E, I, or O, and it must contain exactly three terms which exactly occurs two times. We also saw an example for categorical syllogism. So we have three propositions here, which are all A type, that means universal affirmative. So from the first two premises, so is the so all students are intelligent is the conclusion. So from the first two premises, we are concluding. It so it meets the so it is the valid, so it meets the requirement of categorical syllogism, and it also contains three terms: students, smart persons, and intelligent, and each term is repeating twice: student, smart person, intelligent. So this is a perfect example for categorical syllogism. Now let's see the terms in the syllogism. As we discussed before, we have three terms in syllogism: major term, minor term, and middle term. What is meant by major term? The predicate of the conclusion is the major term, and the subject of the conclusion is the minor term, and the term which never appears in conclusion but appears in the first two premises is the middle term. So, uh, after this, we discussed about the parts of a standard form categorical syllogism. So we have three parts of a standard form categorical syllogism: major premise, minor premise, and conclusion. How we will call it as major premise. So the premise which contains the major term, that means predicate of the conclusion, is the major premise. The premise which contains the minor term, that means subject of the conclusion, is the minor premise. And the conclusion is the main thing, because through the conclusion only we are concluding the subject and predicate. So next, in today's video, we will be studying about what is standard form, what is the standard form, and about the order of the premises, and about the mood and figures. So let's see what is standard form. The form in which a syllogism is said to be when its premises and conclusion are all standard form categorical propositions A, E, I, or O, and are arranged in standard order, which means major premise, then minor premise, then conclusion. So, what is the standard form and what is the standard order? So, we have seen about major, minor, and conclusion premise. So, how standard order means first it should major premise should come, and next minor premise should come, and after that conclusion should come. So, why do we need the standard form? We need the standard form to analyze the arguments accurately, right? So let's see the order of the premise with a small example. Correct it. Here it's not all heroes, it's no heroes or cowards. So no heroes or cowards is the first premise. Some soldiers or cowards is the second premise, and therefore some soldiers are not heroes is the conclusion. So all heroes or cowards belongs to a proposition which is of E type. Sorry, no heroes or cowards is a universal negative. Some soldiers or cowards belong to I type, which is particular affirmative, so it is also a proposition. Some soldiers are not heroes, which is a conclusion, belongs to O type, that means particular negative, so it is also a proposition. So the first rule is valid of syllogism. So what's the second thing we need to see? The second thing we need to see is it is a syllogism we know because we have three terms and the three terms is repeating twice, and all these three premises are of in the form of propositions, and we have two premises and one conclusion. So these all indicates this is a perfect example of categorical proposition. But do we know it if it is in a standard form or not? We need to check it. How we will be checking it? For that, we will be finding major term and minor term. After finding the major term and minor term, we will be finding major term and major premise and minor premise. By finding the major premise and minor premise, we will be order the propositions again as a standard order. So let's see. So what is the mean by major term? So major term we will be finding from the conclusion. Since therefore is there in third premise, it is the conclusion sentence. So in here, soldiers is the subject and heroes is the predicate. So the predicate of the conclusion is the major term, and the subject of a conclusion is the minor term. So minor term is soldier, major term is heroes. So we found the major and minor term, and the middle term is cowards because it never appeared in conclusion, but it appeared in other two premises. So cowards is the middle term. So, as we found out the major term as heroes, which is the predicate of the conclusion, the sentence which has the subject heroes is the major term. Here, all heroes are no heroes are covered is the major premise because it has the major term heroes as its subject, and in the second premise we have soldiers in the subject because so it belongs to minor premise, and therefore some soldiers are not heroes is the conclusion as we know. So the first premise is the major premise, second premise is the minor premise, and the third premise is the conclusion, which is following the order of standard form: major premise, minor premise, and then conclusion. So to check whether this syllogism is in standard form or not, we need to check two conditions. What are the two things we need to check? First, we need to check its premises and its conclusion are all standard form categorical proposition, and those propositions should be arranged in specified standard order. We need to check these two things to find out whether it is in a standard form or not. So, we will be seeing about mood and figure in the next part of the video.